Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Man, it's good to be back, man. I'm back. I'm excited. We're back in this thing again. One more time, we're back in it again. And we're back in this episode 37. And again, I'm just so excited and happy to just have this opportunity. And I'm happy that we have the continued support of everybody with this show. Again, it just blows my mind to see what God has been doing, what God has continued to do. And just to have these conversations, because I feel like these conversations are extremely helpful, and I'm glad that we're able to continue with them. So as we get people to come in, usually every week, let me know where you're tuning in from. Give a shout out in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from, and I am so excited and looking forward to this conversation tonight. Man, I got a guest tonight that talked about coming on over the last few months, and I'm glad our schedules was able to work out. Because tonight, man, I'm really, really looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have tonight, because this conversation is one about elevation and from a mental standpoint, and challenge ourselves to grow and be a better version of who we are. So make sure you like and you share this. Let people know that you're tuning in. I'm doing it right now, just sharing it with some people. And we're just gonna get on with it. So as usual, I like to give a shout out to some people that I know personally doing their thing. And I know people from all different backgrounds. So I want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine that I met on the deployment back in 2006. Man, it's been that long, man. Time don't stop for nobody. I met her on the deployment in 2006. She was deployed. She worked with a financial unit. And we stayed connected since then. And she's out. Her name is Regina Warren. And she's been killing it on the modeling side. And she has a lot of things going on. So she's been in magazines, done feature shoots and all of those things. So I just want to give her a shout out. Let her know that, hey, I'm proud of you. And as you guys see, I talked about I got classmates that's doing, people that I personally know that's doing real estate, that's doing financial market, that's doing teaching, that got their entrepreneurs, they're doing a lot of different things. And I just want to give her a shout out, Regina. Tell you that I love what you're doing. Proud of you. And we're just going to continue to go on. So without further ado, again, let me know where you're tuning in from. You can comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. But we're going to carry this conversation on. We want to introduce and bring in a special guest, the guest that I have on for tonight, Mr. Damian Cunningham. I know that before I bring him in, it's somebody that I met via Facebook. I met him via Facebook in a group that we both are members of, and just through interaction, man, I really began to like, hey, man, I like how this guy think, and reached out and we connected together, and I know he shared with me, but my life had been enlightening since since we connected. So I value his opinion. And for those, I think you guys are going to realize tonight, he's going to give it to you straight up and down, no chaser, which I like it. Candor is great. Candor is necessary. So I'm going to bring him in and allow him to introduce himself. So he'll be coming in real.
Hey, how you doing? First of all, thanks, Rob, for bringing me on to the show. I appreciate all the words of appreciation for me. You never know who's listening to you. I like to, not take myself too seriously, even though I know sometimes I come across a little bit blunt at times. But, the fact that, folks are out there actually paying attention to some of the things that I'm saying it's humbling and definitely appreciative that I'm able to have an impact, good, bad or indifferent, with folks out there as they're on their path and their journey. I just retired from the military after 24 years of service in November. I was a lieutenant colonel, AG branch, AG leading the way. prior service, enlisted back in '94 as a 75 Bravo, which was a personnel administration specialist. A couple of deployments. Been stationed in some of the major divisions: 1st Infantry Division, 2nd Infantry Division, 101st. Had great leadership and mentorship along the way, whether it was on the enlisted side, like I said, serving in Korea in 2ID, or on the officer side. But I just, if I would probably miss somebody if I had to name all of the great leaders that I had that had a hand in helping me along my journey as a commissioned officer. So that's just a little bit of my background. I'm currently working in the civilian sector as a production supervisor, something that has taken me out of my comfort zone, that I've had to go back to the books, if you will, and basics of trying to figure out, how to lead at the tactical level. Which, honestly, for me has always been the most fun level, because you're interacting with the ground level folks who are actually making things happen, and the impact that you can have as you serve and interact with them on a daily basis. So that's just a little bit about me and where I'm at. Just moved over from Leavenworth into Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. Still unpacking boxes. We almost done, but just looking forward to this, transitioning fully now that I've kind of got into my house that I'm going to be in post-retirement for a while. Fully transitioning into the civilian world and just enjoying life, man. Just enjoying life. I'm blessed. Can't complain.
Hey, so I want to give a shout out. We got some people tuning in. We got my classmate, Mr. The real estate tycoon himself, Mr. Frederick Ward, tuning in from Tuscaloosa. Cassandra Lee, she's tuning in also from Tuscaloosa. And you see all these Tuscaloosa references. I ain't gonna say what's in Tuscaloosa. It's a school that's down there in Tuscaloosa that just like won a national championship. But and it's a certain school that we think that I just don't want to, I don't want to say that. But my other classmate, Chandrilla, she's tuned in from the metropolis of Greensboro, Alabama. Star King, how you doing, Star? Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate the support. And going back to my days at Alabama A&M University, shout out today, the Magic City Classic is going on down there. Alabama A&M will beat up on the honeybees of Alabama State University. Alabama State University is going to go down today. So no, but hey, I really appreciate that. And I would tell you just off the top, with me, what drew me to you was like the similar path. Like when you being prior service, me being prior service, we make the transition over to officer. Like I like how you said, I ain't never really told you this, and I'm sharing this now. Like having those examples of people that walk the similar path that you walk is really helpful for you to kind of, when you're in that space, to try to figure yourself out. Mm-hmm. Because examples are paramount in just navigating life. And I think that's what a lot of us suffer from, because we try to navigate life without those examples. And I appreciate your transparency and your candor, because just like what you said, you never know who's watching you. And it was really helpful for me, especially trying to figure myself out as I transitioned from, one side, for those that I'm not really going to get too deep in it, but going from being a sergeant first class to a second lieutenant, it's a change. It's a change. So that's something that was a challenge for me. Just want to go on down. Maritza. So that's my Marissa was my little not say little, but like she was one of the, how you claim you have a girlfriend in school. So she was, when I was in elementary, she was one of the ones that I claimed that she was my girlfriend. So she's tuning in from Charleston, South Carolina, down there in Geechee Land. So, hey, so tonight, man, we want to just talk about, understanding the importance of the ability to critically and independently think for yourself. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because I think today especially with our climate, you know what I'm saying, with our in our society, with a lot of stuff going on, with the advent of social media, with the advent of everybody having, you know, cameras on their phones that can record and put content out there, all of these different platforms, a lot of people are getting their information from a lot of different sources. But I don't think a lot of people are taking the time to, or even being forced to critically think, and think on their own. Um, and it's sad because we see a lot of people are emotionally charged about stuff to the point to where it impacting their livelihood, impacting how they live. And I know we was having some conversations prior to coming on this show, but like you said something, I want to jump into that. Like you said something, and I'm gonna bring it up. I saw my brother, he shared on his story a video, and it was this teacher. I can't remember where it was, but it was this white teacher. She was on a Zoom call with one of the parents, and she thought the Zoom call was over, but they was still going, and the parent recorded what the teacher said. And the teacher was saying about how the child, how the parent, you know, is like not believing what the child is doing. The child is not doing the work. Child's being disrespectful, you know, blase, blase. And then the teacher, who was white, and the parent, who was black, said this after, was like, and that's how the black kids, you know, that's how the black people are. Now, with me, how I would look at that is that, you know, and you said something earlier, and I want to let you expound on it, but you was like, you know, two things can be right at the same time. If I'm, you know, and correct if I misquoted that, but I know some people
said two things can be true.
Two things can
be true at the same time.
Yeah, two things can be true at the same time. But it's hard to look at that if I don't have the ability to critically think and to independently think. Because what I would do is, once I hear one thing, I'm emotionally charged right off that, and I react to that instead of being able to analyze it and pull the truth out of it, and use and maximize the opportunity for growth in each one. So what do you have to say about that? Do you have anything to explain that?
Well, I concur that you know, in the modern, or in our current era, where we have the ability to access information at the touch of, you know, your telephone, I think that we have regressed in the ability to actually deep dive in that information to get a more intimate understanding, to then be able to apply critical thought to, you know, different, you know, situations or whatever that we may be going through. So with the situation that you brought up, you know, when I said both things, I said more than two things can be true at the same time. Too often we, I think, become myopic in our thinking, binary. It's either this or that, good or bad. You're either racist or not racist. And oftentimes in life, a lot of things are on a sliding scale. And we tend not to want to operate in the gray, when almost everything about our lives on this planet is in the gray. You know, if you're a spiritual person who, you know, like for me, you know, I practice Christian faith. You know, there's only one person who walked the planet that was perfect. So if that person is the only one who ever did it, then everybody has a flaw, everybody has a frailty, everybody has something that in today's world, if it became known, would get you canceled. Where, you know, in a different time, you know, that's that area of gray that we learn to operate in. And so the emotional aspect of it, you know, I don't want to say that you had to be totally unemotional, because emotions are actually a natural part of you know, your human experience as well. But it's how do you manage those emotions in the process of still applying critical thought processes to get to a logical conclusion.
So you hit on something. I want to peel that onion back. Man. You talked about something. You talked about some taboo stuff, like in America they tell you, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, right?
I
And it
talk
was
about both all the time.
I talk about both. Listen, I talk about both all the time myself because I feel that this is just me personally speaking. I feel like those who can't engage in those conversations are those who have a closed mind and lack the ability to critically think. For example, what I base mine based off of, and a lot of people will have I would say during the last administration, there was a term that was derived and birthed out of it called alternative facts. And that term is kind of like what a lot of people like to do now. But you hit something like people don't like to operate in the gray area. But what I think a lot of that too is people feel like everybody got to agree with them. And I think that's a lot of the issues. Like you don't have to agree, man. Like because what I choose to believe in and what I choose to whatever is based off of me analyzing things, based off my experience, based off facts, based off research that I've come to accept as true for me. However you feel is not going to dictate a change. So it's because I put in the time. And I think a lot of people don't put in the time. They just react off how they feel or them being fed some bad information. And they're too intellectually lazy to actually go and do it. So especially, I'm not going to get into the debate about especially from a spiritual standpoint, but there's a lot of people like to debate spiritual things from a very ill-informed place. And they feel just because they may come with a lot of bravado, like that really makes what they're arguing factual. And there's no balance. If you know what I'm saying, there's no balance. And the same thing with politics. There's no real balance or analysis being done with it. So you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, part of it, like you started off saying that if you don't agree with me, then I have to, cancel you out of my, the biggest thing that inhibits personal growth and improvement is having that echo chamber. Now, I am part of a Facebook, the conversation group where we dubbed ourselves the Echo Chamber Faction because somebody gave us that moniker in a certain person's page, and so we took it on as a badge of honor and flipped it. But if you were privy to those conversations that we have behind those doors, there's a lot of stuff that we don't 100% agree on, and we go at it. But we're unified in our larger objective. And so, and then there's other groups that I'm a part of, or conversation groups where we one of them, one of the guys in the group was a conservative GOP voter up until President Trump. Actually, I think Mitt Romney, but he's, we're unified in overall goal, but different pathways to get to that end state. And so we're bringing different perspectives to the table, different, and most of these perspectives are actually based in some scientific or statistical analysis, turning data from data into information into knowledge, and then, making decisions. Talk about that what's it called? The hierarchy. One of the things we talk, cognitive hierarchy.
Yeah.
It's really the ability to disagree with somebody or have somebody disagree with you, and then examine the validity or the truthfulness or the factualness of your position, and either having to adjust or double down or change the way you think, or come to a new conclusion, which is very difficult for a lot of people to do. I mean, I like being right. I ain't gonna sit here and lie to you and gas you up thinking that I'm like this Neil deGrasse who, I know nothing, and though I come in every conversation is no, I like being right. I like winning arguments. I love debating. I like winning arguments, but I also like being factually correct. And so if somebody hits me with a new set of facts, new set of information. In fact, me and my sister had a conversation about sexual harassment and the perspective between a woman harassing a man and a man harassing a woman.
Mm.
And she brought into it a perspective that I had never accounted for, and that was the element of physical harm and the possibility of physical harm.
Mm.
And I haven't put forth that argument that I had since that conversation because it was new information for me, new perspective for me. And that perspective made me re-examine my position to where now I don't hold that position I held anymore. They're not the same.
But that shows a sign of your maturity, though. Like this is like, and I want to point that out because when we start talking about especially like race, it's a hot topic right now. That's a hot topic. Like that's either everybody racist and or everybody is it's no either or.
You
no
either part of the Klan or you part of the Black Panther Party.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if you black and you have an opposing or you come with it not from automatically to the left or to the right, then either you're Uncle Tom. You see what I'm saying? It's like there's no gray area or no middle ground. But I wanted to hit on that top what you talked about with perspective. I asked this question. I said it. The military Defense Secretary Austin did a stand down that we had to have a open and honest discussion about, basically equality, race, and equality in the military, and it was throughout all Department of Defense. And one of the discussions I had with my classmates, I asked them, and the demographics it was 15 people in my group. 2 of us was African American males. It was 2 females, one was Hispanic, one was Caucasian, and it was 11 Caucasian males in that group. And I asked a question. I said, outside of the 2 females and the other African American male with me in my group, I said, how many of you guys ever been a minority in your formation? And it got quiet because they never even had to consider that. Not saying that you see what I'm saying? So their perspective.
Not putting a value on it, just the perspective itself.
Just a perspective itself. And a few of them said, man, I ain't never really looked at it like that. I never even thought about it like that. And I thought about, the ability to critically and independently think will allow you to view life through a more empathetic lens, because now the validity of your argument was never challenged by the perspective that your sister brought to that conversation.
Right.
It didn't make how you felt before wrong. You just never considered a certain factor of it.
Yeah, I definitely, because I came into that conversation like I'm nice. I know what I'm talking about. I'm looking at boom, boom, boom. I got scenarios for you and all that. And she was like, well, when somebody harasses me, there's the element of this person can do me harm. And I was like, oh, never thought about that. It's one thing to be, and it's not to say that a woman assailant can't do a male harm from a job perspective, job security perspective, things like that. But like physically dominate you. Ooh, that it just changed my whole thought process, because like I just can't see myself being physically dominated by too many people, let alone in that scenario. So it definitely made me take a couple of steps back to really think, where am I coming from with this? And part of this too, not to flip it, but we throw out a lot of these terms nowadays that's meant to, in my opinion, shut down debate. And some of these things are actually valid things that happen, but what happens though is it becomes the catchphrase, and it's just used to debate's over because this is what and it stifles dialogue. And so part of but I will say this, part of dialogue is also knowing whether or not you're coming to the conversation as an educator or as a student.
So with that though, the conflict that comes with that is a lot of people come with feeling as if that they're in a position to educate, but they lack the depth
to be an educator.
To be an educator.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, like, and so I would say this, and I love to use social media as an example. Say you post something on your page, mm-hmm. and I come on your page and with an opposing point of view, but my opposing point of view is just way off in the left field, and you be like, hey man, just hey, I got it, but you can take that to your page. I'm not trying to bring that over here. One of the things I think that, because this happened to me numerous of times, and I had to reach out to an individual, and I was like, hey man, like I get what you're trying to do, your perspective, but that ain't what I'm trying to do here. And what I had to realize too is, how much mental capital do I want to invest mm-hmm. in it? And also realizing I'm trying to find the right way of saying it, but eventually I made up in my mind, I'm not going to argue with anybody that hadn't been outside the city, the county, or the state lines. When my perspective coming from being traveling the world, being exposed to mm-hmm. things outside of where my small bubble is. Not saying that I'm better, not arguing that I'm better, but what exposure is the best educator in the world. And I think a lot of times we have a limited perspective, and kind of like what you talked about earlier, your perspective was expanded because of somebody else, because you was exposed to your sister point of view. But I think
John Henry Clark said that, I only debate my equals, all others I teach. So I've arrogantly posted that a few times on my page, but no, you're right that like we talked about earlier, there's an article that says you're not entitled to your own opinion. And so you start talking about, everybody has an opinion, but it doesn't mean that everybody's opinion is an informed opinion or is a opinion that comes from a depth of knowledge and understanding. And so, you weigh the pros and cons and of whether engaging with, there's people who will come on my page and I know that, the smoke, they really don't want the smoke, and it's really not worth my effort to light the fire.
Yeah.
And I'll ghost you in those, not you, but like I'll ghost those people in those conversations, just for my own peace of mind, which I had to learn. I had to learn to be able to walk away because, like I said, I used to want to. I'll argue from now till it's time to go to bed, and then wake up in the morning, continue the argument. But I had to learn to walk away. And, sometimes if that means you're letting that person win the argument, let them win. Give yourself peace of mind. But that depth, that you brought up. There's also another article that talks about deep literacy and how deep literacy is actually on the decline here in the United States, where people just don't pick up books to read anymore, let alone lengthy articles.
So because I want to jump on that. So you hit something. What I respect about you, just by watching you, I realized that you were somebody that was committed to self-elevation. So you're somebody who read, and not just you talking about I had to go and read all these books and stuff, and not saying that just because you read a book that makes you super smart, but different books, different perspective help either it helps challenge your how you think and give you different ways to approach a problem. I can remember this. I remember this. I love to cook. And like I said, I have to confirm. I have to have scientific evidence to taste your ribs that you be posting online to make sure that it's factual, it's true. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I learned, I remember when I first got married, I remember my wife would always like come at me because I would wait to the end and clean all the dishes.
And she would
And
clean as she goes.
and she would clean as she go, but she would come at me like, "Why you ain't cleaning as you go?" And I'm like, "What? Look at the end, ain't it getting done?" But by watching and looking, it actually was a lot easier to clean as I go because guess what? The pans are a lot hotter, so that means it's easier to clean. You ain't letting that stuff dry up, and so I eventually transitioned to that because I was exposed to it. I was still accomplishing the same thing, but because I didn't like it that it was presented to me at first, but I sat down and I looked at it and I said that is a better way of doing it. And I think too, one of the things, and I really want to, one of the things that I see and I want to talk about it is, man, how much, and I'm speaking for myself. My mom is watching right now. My dad passed away in 2013. I am so appreciative for everything that they did for me growing up. I was brought up in a very loving and encouraging home. They provided me a great life. But there's a lot of things that I grew up with that when I got older, I had to realize that ain't gonna work for me. And I had to challenge myself because a lot of people, man, we go down that rabbit hole of, oh, it didn't kill me. So no, it wasn't good for you. Like you need to get to that place where you can critically think and do an analysis and say, is this going to work for me? Not saying that it was wrong. Is it going to work for me? And challenge myself to change or adjust.
So you talk about the parental aspect, and when it comes to the literacy part, I have to credit my mom, who avid reader. She had me at 18 years old, right? So I'm already starting from behind the eight ball, if you will, when it comes to statistical outcomes and all of this. But one of the things, she was the bookworm of her family, right? And so she would take me to the library, and what she did was she knew that I love sports. Like, my grandparents would tell you, like at 2-3 years old, I was sitting with them on their laps or whatever, intently watching NBA basketball, NFL football, knowing the players. That I'm an athlete at heart. So what she did was she took that love of athletics to the library. So I was allowed to check out 2 books that had to do with sports, and then I had to check out another book that had something to do with anything else but sports. So I started reading early, and then for Christmas I would always get books. They one year they signed me up for a Zoo Books subscription, so every month I was getting a different magazine book about different animals, whether it was whales, the big cats, bears.
Man, you date yourself because that's
Bruh,
a catalog you
tell
got to
you,
fill
this is
out.
where it comes from. This is where it comes from. I mean, I would get books on how do they do that, and it's just a whole book of nothing but how they made the light bulb, how they built transistor radios, and somebody asked me one time, like, how do you know all of this, like, frivolous stuff? And it's like, it's just stuff that I've been exposed to via reading first, and then now I watch Discovery Channel. I'm a nerd. I was a nerd early on. I'm a nerd now. But that intellectual curiosity was sparked early, and so wanting to know, especially if you're going to have a conversation about it. I never wanted to be in a conversation where I said something that made me look and sound like an idiot. And so that meant you had to read, you had to study, you had to do your homework before coming to the table. And so when you talk about critical thought, analysis, it starts with literacy. It starts with intellectual curiosity, and but you have to watch for groupthink. You have to watch for echo chambers. You have to watch for not exposing yourself to diverse thoughts and points of view. So, like,
So
I grew up as a Christian, but I have respect for other faiths and religions because, let's be honest, most of us are the religion we are because our parents was that religion.
yep,
Not many of us are converts. Very few of us
yep,
are converts to whatever religion we are. And
yep,
so, you kind of gotta like, though your faith may be your faith and what works for you, you kind of have to humble yourself to, I'm not about to be bashing these other folks over the head because their faith is different than mine. I haven't walked their life, those types of
but,
things. So,
but see, and the thing about it is exposure. So I remember one of the things I learned so much is when I deployed in 2006 to 7, I was on a military transition team. So I was embedded with the Iraqi Infantry Battalion. It was 10 of us living with the 400 plus 500 man Iraqi Infantry Battalion. And you get all this cultural sensitivity training before you go, and they talk about the difference in the culture. We talk about the Iraqis and they're Muslim, and you have the Sunni and the Shia. You have these differences, and going over there, one thing I realized, man, is living with them, embedded with them. They want the same thing I want.
that was what I
Like,
when I
and you,
went to Saudi Arabia. It was the same experience. When you go to a country, a little bit different. Being on the mid team than when you go to somewhere like Saudi Arabia and you're there in a PCS. You're in a different, even though you're military, it's a different. You're in a different posture, and so you're exposed to like everyday living,
yeah,
and that's what you see is that no matter where you are around the world, pretty much everybody wants the same thing.
yeah.
They want to be able to raise their family. They want to, with some level of protection and security. They want to be able to, have a earn a living doing something that they consider to be decent work, and they want to enjoy life. All the other
So
stuff is stuff we put on it. All is BS that we add to the pot that just that messes up human interaction.
and that's because I mean, and I want to jump into it, but I want to hit this point. My mom said that she said nerds are cool, right? And I want to hit this because
We wasn't cool in elementary school.
so, like, I know you played football at the college level at Mount Union. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I mean, people don't understand Mount Union is Mount Union is the dynasty before Nick Saban at Alabama. Like, people don't
It's
understand.
the Alabama of Division III.
It's the Alabama. They kind of in their own category though.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the evil empire.
yeah, it's the evil empire. But you played. What I'm saying, you played football at those levels. I was all-state football player, first team all-state in high school, and I was on my Scholar Bowl team. I was on the, I was just nerding it out, man, just nerding out. And it's okay to have intellect and be functioning in sports because one thing I realize is, and I know we kind of go up, we're gonna go back, but that has helped me in so many ways to stand on my own 2 feet anywhere I go in the world, and allow me the ability to your inability to critically think and independently think will forfeit the power that you have to control your surroundings.
Yes, I agree.
And a lot of people don't realize that, and they fall into the trap of surrounding themselves as group thinks with confirmation bias. And that's why I want to transition to, like, how dangerous is it to allow to saying like be like a self-licking ice cream and to and indulge yourself in a group think or always seeking confirmation bias that not challenge saying how you that's a detriment to your ability to critically think and independently think.
It is a huge danger, especially in the digital age or the internet, whatever you want to call this age we're in, where they're using algorithms to feed you what you want to see based on things you've looked at before.
Yeah.
We all know that, oh man, I think I want some shoes. And next thing you know, Facebook is giving you ads for Nikes and Beckett and Simmons and all, you're getting all the shoe advertisements. So, it's one of the things that you have to consciously fight against the confirmation bias. You have to consciously question. There's times when I'll see a post on Facebook or somebody will send me something and it's just too good to be true. Like it's right there in my wheelhouse for what I think and believe and feel. And this is all the evidence I need to it's the coup de grace, right? And then you look up the story, you go do the research on it, and it's fake news. Yeah. It's not real. It's not true. And now that thing, it was, I remember there was an article that said that it was one of the Fox News contributors that I can't stand. I mean, I really cannot stand her. Ann Coulter. It was Ann Coulter, right? And this, said that she got on a flight with an all-black crew and she didn't want to fly on that flight because it was, this black pilot and yada, 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 yada. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah. But then I was like, no, this is a little bit too good to be true, right? It ain't this easy. And so you look it up and you find out that it wasn't true at all. So, there was a danger in me continuing that narrative by posting it to my page where, people who think that I have, some repute, that my words are valid or that my positions are valid, now take what I say about this article and they run with it. And now we've spread this slander, because that's what it really is. It's slander, even though it's a political or ideological opponent, but she wasn't guilty of that. She might be guilty of many, many things that I find appalling, but she wasn't guilty of that. But so I mean, let's deal with truth and understand.
But I get what you're saying about truth, but that still will work towards you damaging them and making you more right.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't though. That's the thing. And I know where you playing devil's advocate, but it doesn't make you more right. It actually, I think, weakens your position because, and I'm not saying that like when Michelle Obama says when they go low, we go high. No, I'll cut your knees. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I have a hard time adopting her philosophy on that. But I'm gonna cut your knees with like truth. I'm not gonna cut your knees with made up stuff. I'm not gonna cheat you to get you.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm gonna say this. I'm real petty. I'm just gonna. I'm
super petty.
I'm petty, but see, and my son, he be laughing at me like, so like sometimes I post something and people will comment, they're having an opposing view, right? And I'm petty to the point to where I would present facts on my position in a way that's packaged in a way that if you're not at a certain level intellectually, it's going to go over your head and you're missing and you'll keep arguing a point and I just keep hitting you back with it. And that's the petty level. I mean, I know
you'll be arguing something I ain't even arguing about.
Yeah. But I feel you on that one. And I talk about forgiveness and all this on this show. I talked about it, but just because I forgive you don't mean I got to deal with you.
Well, I struggle with my mom. She's kind of like my super conscious. You know what I mean? And one of the things she told me was, like, when I was younger, one of the phrases in our house was "Get mad, get glad." And my grandma had a saying, put your feelings in your back pocket. And so my mom has, as she's grown and evolved, she said she wished she never heard those phrases. And so, it's a struggle for me to not be super petty. But
listen, and that's why I said it, man, because I think a lot of times, and this is a whole nother conversation, but a lot of times we fall into the imprisonment of groupthink because it becomes a comfort zone for us to not really be. It becomes a comfort zone in a sense to protect us from a mental standpoint because we're fearful of being transparent of the reality of who we are.
Yeah. Oh man, you said a whole mouthful right there. I'm gonna take it further than that. Um, it it's hard to think critically. It's hard to examine your position as to whether it's valid or not. Um, I make, and honestly, I don't hold punches with the left or right if you're talking about the political spectrum.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about the neo-wokies. I call them neo-wokies. They don't watch the YouTube, and now they ready to go stand on the corner and they the next Malcolm X, right?
Listen, I say
And
this.
it's like,
I said the woke starter kit is 2 YouTube videos, join a Facebook page, and read 3 scriptures. Not read Deuteronomy or read a scripture here and there or the Quran, and you certified. That's your certification. They send your certification in the mail.
yeah, I mean, and then you start talking. Let's talk about Dr. Yosef Ben Yakiman. Let's talk about Dr. John Henrik Clark. Let's talk about Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. He changed his name. Some of these folks I've actually seen speak in person, not the YouTubes. I seen Dr. Yosef Ben Yakiman speak my freshman year, and he was way above my head. That lecture he gave at Mount Union, and I thought that I had been in the books. I had read some Anthony Browder. I was doing some, I'm thinking I'm nice with it, listening to my KRS-One, my X-Clan. I know who Marcus Garvey is. Man, Dr. Yosef was so far above my head. And, I got to see Kwame Ture speak that year. I've seen Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad when I was at LU. He came there to speak. So, like, when I see, at one point I was a neo-Wokey. So I can identify NeoWookieisms. And it's like, look here, young buck. I mean, you're going to have to read a couple more books above 300 pages before you start to really develop a full understanding of and I get the fervor, I get the energy, but what happens is I think sometimes it sets you up for failure in the aspect that you're applying a standard to everybody else that you can't meet. And that's why I talk about that gray area, right? So, you have to be careful in your absolutes that you don't get trapped when you violate your absolutes. Sister girl from the BLM movement, she's on the hot seat right now because she done bought some property and she was talking about being a Marxist. And I'm not saying she shouldn't be able to buy some property. I'm not saying that it's not a wise investment move. I'm not saying she might not have some positive thing down the road to do for it. What I'm saying is your rhetoric paints you into a box that now, because you can't meet that rhetorical standard that you set, now you got to defend yourself. And you got to be careful with part of that critical thinking is knowing what to say and put out into the atmosphere, because the standards you set become the standards you have to live by.
But see, okay, so now I got to play devil's advocate now. So how you gonna be a black man and you bring that up about one of the leaders of the Black Lives Matters movement? Like how can you do that? I mean, you ain't being real
about anybody. But I talk about conservatives just as bad. Matter of fact, I'm more on their head than anybody.
But wait a minute. Nah, man. I mean, you can't just talk about your own. You know what I'm saying? We got to look out for each other. You know what I'm saying?
Man, first of all, miss me with that. No, I know you playing devil's advocate, but honestly, if I was to respond, miss me with that. Because it's not that I know better. It's a we got to be able to have critical conversations with each other. We can't be shunning conversations with each other because somebody's in a quote unquote protected category. No, who was Malcolm X most critical of? Us. Who was you know, look, man, look, Malcolm brought heat to white supremacy. He brought
Yep.
a lot of heat, as he should, to white supremacy, but he also pointed the finger at us. You know, he said that, you know, we have no right to demand of other people jobs that we can't give ourselves.
Yep. Listen, and
I'm just saying, you know,
listen,
so
but
we
see,
got to be critical of ourselves.
but see, and is the problem with, I think we miss the inability to critically think is that what happens is we become pacified by avoiding accountability. And by avoiding that accountability, what we miss out on is the strength of diversity. This is what I mean by that. A lot of people, when you hit a narrative of civil rights movement, we think that everybody loved Martin Luther King, and including all of the black preachers. I'm talking about you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that was one way of thinking, but no, like
some of his
one thing
biggest opponents were black preachers.
Yes, and I wanted to say that because there's nothing wrong with, we need opposition. I think that President Kennedy, he said in one of his speech that, you know, opposition is necessary because what it does is it brings different perspectives and it challenges you to get to the right thing. So I'm in school, you know, Command and General Staff College, and one thing we do there is military decision making process, MDMP.
Mission analysis.
Mission analysis. And in mission analysis, I always find myself to be like the devil's advocate because it's easy to develop a plan that is advantageous to us instead of taking on the perspective of how the enemy looks at it or how the opposite.
We'll go into the intelligence prep of the battlefield.
Yep.
You know, you have to look at yourself through the enemy's eyes, and that helps you. Coming from the athletic background, right? Coaching and being coachable, right? Coaching and being coachable. And one of the things I learned early on, especially in high school, was that eye in the sky don't lie, right? You can say that you did X, Y, and Z. You can say that, you know, you looked inside like you were supposed to before, you know, but when it comes time to watch that film on Saturday morning and the coach keep rewinding it back, wrong step, wrong step, wrong step, wrong step.
You missed your key.
You missed exactly. And so you for me being you know, playing football definitely helped with being able to accept criticism, especially structured criticism that was designed to put me in a better place, right? So you know, you had to tighten up. Like, I'll be honest with you, I go back to my high school tapes. I still have, every now and then I go back, try to relive the glory days in my mind. And I watch the tape and I'm like, man, that terrible technique.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you were successful doing that. Because, you know, once I got to the collegiate level and a higher level of coaching and understanding was being applied, you know, I had no choice but to improve. I mean, it was either improve or you weren't gonna be on the team, or you weren't gonna get no playing time. You weren't gonna get any reps at practice. And so, like you said, holding yourself accountable, or allowing somebody to hold you accountable to your betterment. You know, a lot of times we bristle at being held accountable by others, and it's painful. Trust me, don't nobody like being chastised. I don't necessarily like being chastised, but you know, it's through that chastisement that if you apply the lessons learned, that you should come out better on the other side. And so, yes, I want to be critiqued. But, I want to be told where I'm messing up.
But see, okay, and I know, you know, the military is setting a lot of conditions for those that realize the importance of that, like the necessity of that. But what about this, man? I want to ask you this question. What about the getting to a level of maturity to where you realize, like, okay, how can I accept criticism from a source I don't like or even respect? But what they're telling me is exactly what I need, like the nuggets that I need.
Man, I'm trying to tell you that right there. I, I'm not even gonna lie and act like I'm there. Um, I struggle with it uh, because you get caught into the mental trap of thinking that somebody has to be in a position of respect for you to be able to get something of value from them in that arena in terms of coaching, and that's a mental trap of having thinking that and so, ooh man, I there's a guy that we have our mental tete-a-tetes, and it's not like I'm a big fan of the guy, but if somebody right, they right, and that's a hard pill to swallow.
But the reason why I want to talk about that, see, your ability to critically and independently think will assist you in your ability to pull the truth out of what somebody's saying,
Yeah.
And separate the truth from the emotional aspect of it.
Take the meat, throw away the bones.
Yeah.
Take the meat, throw, and that's the lesson I was taught early on. As a young guy, old heads taking you under the wing, man. Sometimes you got to take the meat and throw away the bones. And um, man, listen, I've had, like you said earlier, before we came on, you had that one toxic leader. I've had one, and I learned some things not to do from that toxic leader. But you also you can glean some positives from them if properly applied.
I adapted a lot of things from that individual that I didn't apply it the same way that individual did it.
But they were sound in their.
They were sound in their the benefits of me using those were like great because
the fundamentals was there.
The fundamentals was there, and I was able to leverage it from an empathetic place instead of from a place. And I'm very happy that we had this conversation because guess what, man? A lot of people are not talking about this. Like we're not talking about this. See, we talk about all the superficial stuff, and I can start doing the marketing and come up with these topics that people like the messy type stuff. But I'm talking about stuff that's gonna help people get better because, and I'm gonna say this. I'm going to say this. I've been dealing with this over the last, just thinking about this. A lot of us don't have or where we are in life because we refuse to challenge ourselves to elevate our thinking. And
I would, I'm not going to say spend the money on the master class, but Neil deGrasse in the advertisement for his master class on critical thinking said a number of things that I found to be just like refreshing. Mm-hmm. And he talked about knowing that there's things that you know, there's things that you don't know, there's things that you don't know that you don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's, when you start thinking about it from that perspective, that the unknown unknowns are way bigger, way more vast than what you think you know. Mm-hmm. And so if you come at it from that angle, that there's so much more for me to learn. There's so much more out there for me to take part in. That diversity of thought that you're talking about. Like when I'm in a room with physicists, I don't start talking about physics. I start listening because they are the physicists. When I'm in a room with, when I'm talking to my machinists that and they start talking about that machine, I shut up. Even though I'm the supervisor, I shut up because they are experts at their craft. And so who am I, this guy who done came in from out the blue just because I person I got out of Lieutenant Colonel. No, no. You got to come with some humility. Because of the unknown. And I think just in general as human beings, we tend to want to be boastful and prideful in what we know. And we want people to know what we know. But where we find our most growth is being humble and knowing that we don't know nearly enough.
So you talk about humility, man, and one of the things that one of the things that drew me to you is because just through the interaction on the internet, I was like, this is something I need to connect to because you challenged me to grow in areas where I wasn't challenged, and I like to be intellectually challenged. Like if you're the smartest person in your group,
you got a bad group.
You got
a bad group to be in.
You got a bad group, and the problem, and I see a lot of people but it's a comfort zone for people because guess what? Okay, I'm not challenged to address my dysfunctions. I'm not challenged to address my limitations. You see what I'm saying? I'm not challenged to grow in areas where I'm deficient in, but I can stay in this place and I can feel like, you know what? Yeah, I'm good. But then I'm complaining about where I'm at, but I don't want to deal with the things necessary to grow.
Yes, definitely. I definitely think your peer group, when people tell me, you've done this and you've done that, and there's a bit of, it's hard to not believe your own press clippings. It is hard. It is hard to not read them press clippings and be like, yeah, I'm nice. I'm real nice. But I like to think that the folks that I interact with on a daily basis, I got two distinct groups of people who, when I get up and check my Facebook messages, I'm looking for them. They challenge your way of thinking every single day. They bring something to the table that I'm not smart in every single day.
Yeah.
One of them gave us a book to read. I had my wife order it on Amazon. It's upstairs. That's my reading now because I ain't smart in that area. I can talk macro level, but I can't talk micro.
Yeah.
And so that person has challenged me to get smarter in that area. And so, you can't be the smartest person in the room all the time, because if you're the smartest person in the room, then that room is going to rise to your level and never above. And
we limit ourselves. So, man, like there's so many people, and listen, and I want to say this for those that's watching. You don't always have to be the oldest to learn something from people. Like there's some people that I know that are younger than me that are killing it on some things, and guess what? I'm reaching out to them. Hey, I need you to pull me in. And guess what? Even though I personally know them, I'm gonna compensate them for it. You know why? Because I respect the fact that they put the time in to acquire that information.
Yep.
And I'm gonna get that information and do it. I want to give a shout out to Lieutenant Colonel now, Chevy Cook. This guy just got his PhD from Tusk University. This dude is a heavyweight, man. This dude's a heavyweight. Like he's on a whole nother level. And I had the chance to meet him in person when I was on a deployment in Qatar. We actually lived in the same building. One thing I learned from this guy don't watch TV. He just read books. And he just like, cause he's founded the Military Mentors and he does a lot of writing and publication. And bro, like I've learned so much because I'm a psychology background. He got his and he's gonna go on the academic side and just got selected for battalion command. But I like his approach. and that's the nuggets that he sent out every week, man. It just makes me grow, make me challenge myself. And I'm saying that because, you know, and I see you do it, I benefit from you challenging me, is that when you are intellectually curious, you always looking for ways to improve yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't go this whole time with me knowing you're an Ohio State fan without doing the Nick Saban reference, right? So
He's from Ohio, by the way. Just
but
so you know.
I know he's from Ohio, but I'm gonna give a shout out to Ohio State. When y'all beat us in 2015, did you know what Nick Saban did? He flew Term Herman down to Tuscaloosa when Term Herman got hired to go down to Texas.
Texas.
Was it Houston? No, Houston. Houston first. Then, but when he got hired to be a head coach, he flew him down and paid him. How did you beat us? How did you exploit us? Because he wanted to know so that he can adjust. This is the guy that's already at that time, arguably the best of the best, that paid the guy that beat him to tell him, how did you exploit us?
Go watch the conversation between Saban and Belichick.
Oh, bro, I seen it. It's bro. Listen,
it is like I hate the Patriots. I hate the Patriot way. I'm not a huge fan. Like, I respect Bama. I don't necessarily like the fan base, but but I respect them as coaches because of just what you just brought up. That they are when you talk about preparation and critically assessing themselves and finding, like Bill Belichick has a library of books on football history that goes back, like when Doug Flutie did that drop kick.
Yeah,
that was like Bill Belichick was just elated because there hadn't been a drop kick in the NFL since like 1935 or something like that. And so, but it's just like he's such a student of the game of football that he will find every nook and cranny of the rule book to exploit, and it comes across like cheating. But no, it's what's allowed. Just because you ain't read the book, don't mean that he cheating because you ain't read the book. And so listening to them two talk about, what it took for them to get to where they got to, and how they challenged each other, because Saban used to be his D coordinator when they were with the Browns.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I would just want to sit in a room and just like with my notebook and recorder and just listen and take notes. Because oh man, especially as a football coach, I'm coaching youth football now, and one of the things that me and the head coach was talking about was challenging ourselves as coaches to get better as coaches. So, you win a league championship. What do you do the next year to get better? Who are you going to get what's next in the progression of coaching and technique? Who are you talking to? Like, and granted, it's only youth football, but if you're trying to prepare kids to go and compete at the high school level, when they show up, you got to go and talk to those folks who are doing it at that level to see, how to prepare. And so it's the intellectual curiosity piece, the critical look at yourself piece, the literacy piece. I can't emphasize that piece, that part of it enough. They say that the average American, like 70% of Americans haven't picked up a book post high school. That's crazy. That's crazy. And so, and it doesn't have to be some like academically heavy book.
No.
Go read a Star Wars novel if that's your interest. If your interest is science fiction, go read a science fiction novel. If your interest is sports, go read a sports novel. If your interest is animal life, go. There's so much information and books out there that are easy reads, but it gets your mind, the neural pathways that get connected through reading helps you so much in other areas, especially in critical thought. And so that's my advice. Go and read something. Go pick up a book today, start the reading process. You'll start to see change. If you keep reading like a book a month, I guarantee you by next year you won't think like you think now.
And also too, I say this, I challenge a lot of people to download the app Grammarly.
Mm-hmm.
And I pay for I pay for the app, and this is what that app has done. A lot of times, and I know this is not on this, but I know this is in your realm, what you dealt with in the military on the HR side. Your ability to critically think will be reflected in how you communicate in written communication.
Yes.
And
period.
People don't realize in the business world, you will be in the professional world, you will be judged of your written communication.
Yes, you will. And I'm telling you that right now.
And don't nobody care about what your background was, what school you went to, what type of education you got. If you behind the power curve, there are a lot of tools out there for you right now. That's why I'm a huge advocate for Grammarly. You can download it for free. I pay for the premium package, which is like $112 a year. But that thing, listen, I can do a paper. I can upload that paper and I can set it the way it's formal. It's in an academic setting. This is how I want to do it. And that thing kicks some stuff out. And I'm like, oh, and it helps me grow. It helps me grow. And I can get mad and be like, oh man, this, that, and the third. Nah, as a professional, I invested into that because guess what? That made me better. So
let me tell you, since you hit me in my wheelhouse, because effective communication and written word, when you see good writing or when you see great writing, especially from a military perspective, like I thought I could write well. Like you couldn't say I knew how to write in active voice and blah 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 blah. Then I my DCO when I was in the 101st rewrote something I wrote. And I was like, oh, this is writing. This is why people who leave Fort Campbell usually get promoted to the next levels, because the writing is super clear about what they think about. Like if you're a stellar performer there, it is evident clearly in the writing. Period. It's no hemming and hawing. It's no. What do they really mean? No interpolation. It's I want that guy right there to be my next battalion commander tomorrow. That's what it comes across as. And so, you're right. If investing in those products that will improve your writing, that's one of, when I say I'm talking about us as Black folks. The things that hurt us the most in our progression from a professional standpoint, just putting it out there, is literacy, deep literacy, and the ability to write professionally. Two biggest hindrances. So
I would tell you with that writing thing, my battalion commander, when I was in Korea, she's a brigade commander right now. Her name is Colonel Latanya Jordan. I would tell you, I joke with her all the time. I was like, ma'am, I have nightmares from your purple pen, because she did corrections in purple pen. And being the S3, a lot of times these requirements come in and you need to push through for a signature. Wasn't gonna be with her. Like she would correct the Army regulations. And she sat me down and she told me a story about why she was that way. And I said that we're gonna close and getting ready to kind of finish up, but she went to North Carolina A&T and she was English. She was going to school for speech pathology, and she took honors English. And during the time in the mid-90s, a lot of people don't know this, but the Department of the Army made it mandatory that all students, cadets from HBCUs had to take a remedial writing course. And she challenged that all the way up to cadet command and got it overturned. But that was her thing. And I am so grateful for that purple pen. It was excruciatingly painful going through it. But it was also exposing that I went on a level nowhere near the level where, you know, you thinking that you good. And I was like, bro, like, and I'm appreciative of that right now. And that goes down to, I could have approached it from an emotional standpoint, but I looked at it from a critical standpoint was I was deficient. And I started to pride myself on, okay, I only got one correction on this paper, you know, like instead of the whole paper was purple. And I say that because that's being able to critically think and assess yourself, look at yourself, identify what it is and not take it personal, but use it as a learning tool to grow.
Hey, I was a senior major as a brigade S1 with our deputy commander XO was I think she was promoted a year ahead of me, right? And so she's a newly promoted lieutenant colonel. She was the SGS, and our hitting our little jokes amongst ourselves was trying to get something through her as a first time go, right? and I missed getting a first time go on this one correspondence I sent to her from it was like one letter. I was like, oh, one letter kept me from getting the first time go from her. But it was still or iron sharpening iron. It was definitely I never took it personal when stuff got kicked back from her that, you know, had her red ink on, you know, on it or whatever, because I knew, you know, this is somebody who used to work for the 3-star general. So if she's doing his correspondence, who am I as this humble, you know, this lowly brigade S1 to think that I'm no more than she does about getting something signed at the strategic level. So, you know, that humility, that taking the coaching, the criticism, the critique, and trying to improve yourself from it. It's, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it and make it sound like it's sweet and easy to do. It's definitely hard. It's definitely a challenge. It's definitely fighting through your emotions to get to that place. But if you really want to succeed and grow, it's something that is so necessary. Otherwise, like you said, you're gonna find yourself in these positions where you're complaining, and you may have valid complaints, but you're not doing the most that you can do to navigate those obstacles. You know, I never want to say that outside things could not be in the way, because they exist every day. We see those challenges every day. They're out there. They're real. They're definitely real, and there's definitely a concerted backlash, in my opinion, to us doing well, if you will, right?
So
because we're challenging what has been the status quo and norm in the United States for, you know, over 400 plus years. And so every time we've taken a large step forward, there's been a concerted backlash to try to revert us back to what used to be the standard or the norm. But, you know, how do we arm ourselves as we move forward to be able to fight that on all fronts? Takes a critical look, a critical thinking.
And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to have this show tonight, because and discuss this topic and have the conversation about this topic, because, you know, this is the reality. This is the reality. The world, our society, don't care about how you feel.
No.
At all. I'm just being honest with you. Like your emotions, yeah, you can be emotional about things, but there are certain things that run and drive, and there are certain things that we have to be able to have an understanding of, so that we can take full advantage of those things out there. There's information out there. If you are intellectually curious, it is not hard to find information. And I like to use what Denzel, and this is a quote that I have on my email. He said, "Ease is the greatest threat to progression."
Mm-hmm.
And I want the people to be empowered to just improve a little bit every day, get better every day, and understand that it is important to have the ability to critically and independent for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. I appreciate you coming on and sharing. And we got to get together. I let you get settled in Kansas City, man. I got to come try some of the ribs out.
Okay.
And I got to bring some of that Alabama mac and cheese that I put together. Bring that over there to you.
Now, you know my wife making mean mac and cheese, so you know she over here right now. She done came down the steps and she hearing all this. So
hey, so listen, hey, hold on. I got some proof, so she can go check out some of the video evidence on my page. Now, you know.
Okay, I'll let her know. For sure, we definitely need to link up.
Yeah, but I appreciate what you do. Appreciate who you are. I appreciate your transparency, and I appreciate your willingness to reach back. My sister talking about, listen, you ever had a love-hate relationship? Like, that's me and my sister. She said, I don't appreciate you. I don't appreciate you as well. So I will tell you this, my sister Portia, so you talk about people being experts in the field. She was a guest commentator on the Tucker Carlson show a few years back. Yeah, so,
can't stand
and you know, Tucker like to, you know, Tucker like to try to hit you with it. And this I'm talking about your ability to critically think. And I'm gonna send you I'll send you the YouTube thing of it so you can watch it. But at the time, Uniontown, where my dad's and my family is from, Uniontown, Alabama, they was having some environmental issues. And Senator Cory Booker came down and they did like a video, and video got a like close over 1 million views or whatever. And they had her on, and she was speaking on behalf of the Black Belt citizens. In the Black Belt, Alabama, that's the area where they call Black Belt because of the soil, was black soil, they're rich. But Tucker was trying to get her to take from a race standpoint, and my sister looked at it, was like, no, it's economically based. But it's in that area, it's affect African Americans because they live in that area. But she said the same thing go on in northern Alabama where it's just white people. It's an economic based thing. And the ability to critically think is she was able to look at it from a critical perspective and not an emotional perspective and talk the impact on both.
Well, folks will get you emotional and then you start saying all kind of craziness. My mom used to get me when me and her used to have our little tete-a-tetes, and I done worked out the argument in my mind before I decided to go at her. And she would always get me so mad or emotional that I would blurt out something that just ended the whole thing. Just ended it. Like, you know, and because I was so frustrated and so angry and so mad that I couldn't continue to think rationally. And even if I might have been right, I turned out being wrong because I couldn't articulate my position in a calm, rational manner. And I will say, there's a place and a time to be emotional, but you know, normally it's not in a debate format.
You know, the Bible says, you know, Jesus even said, be angry, but sin not. And what I like about that, just that statement, is there's a separation between having the right to have the emotional response, but collecting yourself to make a logical decision with your response. Having an emotional response to what happened, but it is incumbent of you to have a logical response to it. And just like, even with, and I'm gonna end this on this one, and I'll go. But when we talk about faith, a lot we like to, especially as a church, because I'm real critical of the church, because I grew up in the church, been in the church since conception. Grew up a pastor's kid and everything like that. We like to make things superficial, but you really look down to it, it boils down to a logical decision that we choose to make, because it boils down to our choice. And when we break that down, it gives me, you know, that's why I'm not hearing people come to me when they want to talk faith or debate faith and not be respectful of the logic that goes into it, based off the experience, based off the decision that you make and the analysis that you do. Oh, you just do this because of this. How do you know that? Like, you don't know my experience. Right. But you know, that's a whole nother conversation that we're gonna have.
Yeah, that's another.
That's a whole nother conversation. But hey, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I think that this show, like others, is very helpful, and I hope that this was helpful to a lot of people who may tune in. So make sure you share this with somebody, just about the dialogue of understanding the importance of having the ability to critically think. And if we don't change it and change the trajectory, we're going to erode the comforts of what we know right now as a nation and as a people. Anything else you got to say after we depart?
Hey, I just thank you for having me on here, reaching out to me and having enough, I guess, faith in me that I could actually bring something to the table for the people to hear, and that I'm worthy enough to be listened to. So I appreciate you. And like I say, anytime you just reach out to me, and definitely we're gonna link up so we can test this Alabama mac cheese against these fire ribs that I do. So we'll link up. Sure.
Yeah, because I got to do some scientific study,
analysis,
analysis, and provide the critical feedback on that, man. I appreciate it. Thank everybody for tuning in. You guys have a great and blessed day.
All right.